You told me to eat my crab lasagna. Sometimes it's hard for me to tell when you're joking or not. Yeah, it's real easy to forget you're a girl.
Do you remember those weird little Ricky Schroder moments from 1984? The ones you never actually heard back then? At the height of his teen TV fame, Ricky Schroder was in living rooms everywhere, carrying quirks and stories fans never saw. What else from that year has been hiding in plain sight all this time? In 1984, Ricky Schroder's dressing room on the Silver Spoon set was more than just a place to run lines or rest between scenes. It was home to a mini arcade game that had been gifted to him by the crew. The game, a scaled-down version of one you would find in an actual arcade, became his go-to distraction during long shooting days. Ricky would challenge visiting friends, guest stars, and even members of the crew to beat his high score, which he fiercely protected. It was loud enough to be heard from the hallway, and more than one director had to poke their head in to remind him it was time to get back on set. He liked that it gave his room a bit of personality, a little haven where he could escape into the pixelated worlds of the game for a few minutes before jumping back into character. It also became a small social hub. If you were hanging out in Ricky's dressing room, you knew you were probably going to end up playing a few rounds. For Ricky, it was more than just a toy. It was a slice of normal teenage fun in the middle of a very grown-up job. One of Ricky Schroder's most talked-about days on the Silver Spoon's lot in 1984 came when he brought his horse to work. The animal stayed in a trailer in the parking area, but word traveled quickly, and soon half the crew had wandered out to say hello. Ricky had grown up with a love for riding, and he thought it would be fun to let his co-star see a different side of his life. Between takes, he would step outside to feed the horse carrots and stroke its neck, still in costume from the show. The sight of a teenage TV star strolling across the lot toward a horse trailer made for plenty of amused stares from visitors and other productions filming nearby. The horse seemed unfazed by all the attention, calmly watching the bustle of studio life like it had seen it all before. Ricky enjoyed answering questions about riding and showing off a few photos of him competing in local events. For him, it was a reminder that life outside of Hollywood was just as important as the work inside it. Ricky Schroder had a ritual in 1984 that might have looked odd to outsiders but made perfect sense to him. He always wore his lucky baseball cap before filming. It was a beat-up cap from his Little League days, its brim softened and its colors faded from years in the sun. Ricky believed it helped him get into the right headspace, a bridge between being himself and stepping into character. Before a scene, you could often spot him off to the side of the set, running lines quietly with the cap pulled low over his eyes. Just before the cameras rolled, he would take it off, smooth his hair, and hand it to a waiting crew member. The cast knew the hat well, and some even teased him about the superstition, but Ricky insisted it worked. It had been with him through big auditions, personal milestones, and even a few off-screen baseball games, and he was not about to stop the habit now. In an unpredictable business, the cap was his small piece of consistency. For Ricky, it was not just a scrap of fabric. It was a piece of home and history that kept him grounded. In 1984, Ricky Schroder filmed an entire commercial for a popular toy line while in costume for Silver Spoons, but the finished spot never aired. The shoot took place on a separate soundstage over a single afternoon, with bright sets and plenty of action shots showing Ricky playing with the toys. He delivered upbeat lines, laughed on cue, and even improvised a few moments to make the ad feel natural. Everyone thought it was a sure hit, and the producers joked about how they would see it running constantly during Saturday morning cartoons. But just before it was scheduled to air, a licensing issue between the toy company and the network shut the whole thing down. Ricky was disappointed, not because he wanted more exposure, but because he had genuinely enjoyed filming it and was curious to see the final cut. The props and toys from the shoot were quietly packed away, though Ricky managed to keep one as a memento. It became one of those strange little Hollywood stories where the work was done, the check was cashed, and yet the world never got to see the result. For Ricky, it was a reminder that in the entertainment industry, not everything ends up where you expect it to. Remote-controlled cars were a big deal on the Silver Spoon set in 1984, and Ricky Schroder quickly found a creative use for them. During breaks, he and a few crew members would load them with small notes, candy, or even snacks and send them zipping across the soundstage to unsuspecting castmates. The cars would weave around set pieces and skid to a stop at someone's feet, delivering the surprise cargo. Sometimes the deliveries were sweet, a quick hello or a favorite snack, and other times they were harmless pranks designed to make someone laugh during a long day. The crew loved the distraction, and it became a running gag that Ricky was the unofficial RC courier of the set. He even got good enough at steering them that he could navigate tight corners and obstacles without slowing down. Visitors to the set were often baffled to see a small toy car race past them only to drop off a folded note. For Ricky, it was all about keeping the mood light and reminding everyone that, despite the hard work, they were still allowed to have fun. In 1984, Ricky Schroder was in the middle of a routine Silver Spoons rehearsal when the studio doors opened and in walked a famous 80s rock band. They were in town for a concert, and as it turned out, several of the members were fans of the show. Ricky was stunned. One moment he was running lines, the next he was shaking hands with musicians whose songs he had heard blasting from radios all over the country. The band hung around for a while, chatting with Ricky and the cast, watching a few scenes being rehearsed, and even posing for impromptu photos on set. Crew members slipped away for a few minutes to grab their own albums for autographs, creating a fun mix of fandom going both directions. Ricky later said the visit was surreal, like two completely different worlds colliding in the best way possible. It left the whole set buzzing for the rest of the day, with everyone talking about how down-to-earth the musicians had been. For Ricky, it was a reminder that fame could connect people in unexpected and genuinely joyful ways. There was a skateboarding scene on Silver Spoons in 1984 that could have easily been handed over to a stand-in, but Ricky Schroder refused. He wanted it to be clear on camera that it was actually him riding, not a double. The scene called for a few tricky moves, nothing life-threatening, but enough to make producers nervous about injury. Ricky practiced for days in between filming, skating around the lot and getting tips from crew members who had a knack for it. By the time the cameras rolled, he had every move down, from the quick turns to the small jump off a curb. The satisfaction on his face in the final cut was genuine. He had earned it. Castmates teased him about becoming a skateboarding stuntman, but Ricky liked knowing he had pulled it off himself. For him, doing the scene without a stand-in was about authenticity and pride, proving to himself and to fans that he was willing to put in the work. It became one of those small but memorable victories that stayed with him long after the episode aired. One of Ricky Schroder's quirkiest traditions in 1984 was signing the underside of the cruise director's chairs. It started as a joke when a camera operator asked him to autograph his chair as a keepsake. Instead of writing it across the back where everyone could see, Ricky flipped the seat over and left his signature in the hidden space underneath. Soon, other crew members asked him to do the same, turning the undersides of their chairs into a secret autograph gallery. Some signatures were simple. Others included doodles or short notes that only the owner would understand. Ricky liked the idea that his mark was there but not on display, something personal between him and the person whose chair it was. By the end of the season, almost every chair had his hidden signature tucked away out of sight. Years later, those chairs would be scattered across other productions, quietly carrying that little piece of Silver Spoon's history with them. For Ricky, it was just another way to bond with the crew and leave behind something fun. In 1984, Ricky Schroder made a surprise appearance on a television game show as a mystery guest. The twist was that viewers and the in-studio panel could only hear his voice, no visual clues allowed. Ricky disguised his tone just enough to keep people guessing, answering questions with playful hints that danced around his identity. Some guesses were wildly off the mark, ranging from young athletes to radio hosts. When he finally revealed himself, the audience erupted in applause and laughter, and Ricky enjoyed the mix of shock and delight on the panelists' faces. It was a rare opportunity for him to interact with an audience in a completely different format, showing off his quick wit without relying on his appearance. The producers later told him it was one of their favorite reveals of the season. For Ricky, it was a refreshing change of pace from scripted television, a little moment where he got to be both himself and a bit of a performer at the same time. Ricky Schroder kept a small stuffed animal in his trailer in 1984, a memento from his very first movie role. It was slightly worn from years of being handled, but that only made it more special to him. Whenever he saw it on the shelf, it reminded him of where his career began and how far he had come. Sometimes, between takes, he would absent-mindedly hold it while running lines, as if the familiarity helped him focus. Crew members began to notice and would gently joke about it being his good luck charm. On especially long filming days, Ricky admitted that seeing it there made the work feel less overwhelming. A few close friends on set even gave it a nickname, making it part of the show's off-camera family. He never let it leave the trailer, worried that something might happen to it in the chaos of the set. He had been just a kid when he filmed that first role, and the stuffed animal had been a gift from someone on set who wanted him to have a keepsake. It followed him from project to project, always finding a spot in his dressing room or trailer, no matter where the job took him. Cast and crew would sometimes ask about it, and Ricky would share the story with a smile, explaining its sentimental value. It was not about the toy itself, but about what it represented. The beginning of a journey that led to moments like Silver Spoons in 1984. Keeping it close was his way of staying connected to the excitement and innocence of those early days in front of the camera. In 1984, Ricky Schroder picked up an unexpected skill on the Silver Spoon set: juggling. It started when a crew member brought a set of beanbags to work and offered to teach him during a lunch break. Ricky was determined to get the rhythm down, and before long he could keep 3 going without dropping them. He practiced in corners of the soundstage, sometimes swapping beanbags for whatever was nearby: apples, tennis balls, even rolled-up socks. The more he did it, the more people stopped to watch, turning it into an impromptu show. Ricky loved the laughter it sparked, and a few other cast members even tried to learn alongside him. By mid-season, he had developed a little signature move, where he would toss one high into the air before catching all 3 again. It became a lighthearted challenge to see who could outdo him, though no one ever quite did. The casual practice sessions became a regular thing, drawing small crowds of cast and crew who would cheer him on. Eventually, Ricky got good enough to work the juggling into a blooper reel, tossing props in the air between takes while the cameras rolled. It was never scripted, but everyone agreed it added to the lighthearted atmosphere on set. The best part for Ricky was how the new skill came from a spontaneous moment, something not planned or rehearsed, just picked up in the middle of an ordinary day. It was a reminder that even in the fast pace of television production, there was always room for fun and learning. One of the more unusual pieces of fan mail Ricky Schroder received in 1984 came in the form of poems. Entire letters written in perfect rhyme arrived from fans who clearly put a lot of time into their creations. Some were heartfelt, others were funny, and a few were so quirky that Ricky could not help but laugh out loud. One fan even managed to rhyme every single line with Schroder, something Ricky swore must have taken hours. Another sent a poem story that imagined Ricky traveling through time to rescue the cast of Silver Spoons. The most creative ones often earned a spot right at eye level inside his wardrobe closet. He would sometimes read them out loud to the crew, complete with dramatic voices and pauses for comedic effect. The rhyming fan letters became such a hit that castmates would drop by just to see if any new ones had arrived. He started taping his favorites inside his wardrobe closet on set, so he could read them while getting into costume. The rhyming lines became a bit of a talking point, with co-stars occasionally stopping by just to see the latest edition. Ricky appreciated the creativity and effort, and he kept every one of them, no matter how silly. For him, it was more than just fan appreciation. It was proof that the connection between actor and audience could inspire some truly unique expressions. The poems stayed up for the rest of the season, a colorful collage of appreciation from people who tuned in every week. In 1984, Ricky Schroder had a close call right before filming a scene when he accidentally spilled a soda all over his script. He had been sitting in his dressing room, sipping between takes, when the cup tipped and drenched the pages. With only minutes before cameras rolled, panic set in. The wardrobe team rushed in with paper towels while someone else grabbed a blow dryer from the hair department. Ricky crouched beside the outlet, frantically flipping pages as warm air blasted across them. The room smelled faintly of cola for the rest of the day, and the script's edges stayed slightly sticky despite their best efforts. A few stagehands teased him by leaving empty soda cups on his chair for the rest of the week. The soggy script became a running joke whenever someone forgot their lines. "At least you can read yours?" A quick-thinking crew member grabbed a hairdryer, and together they worked to dry the soggy paper as fast as possible. The edges curled, the ink smudged in places, but it was just legible enough to use. Ricky walked onto the set still holding the slightly warm, crinkled script, laughing about how close he had come to shooting without any lines to reference. For the rest of the day, castmates teased him about marinating his dialogue. It became one of those behind-the-scenes stories that everyone remembered. The time a spilled soda nearly derailed an entire scene. Ricky kept the wrinkled script as a reminder that sometimes even the smallest accidents could turn into good-natured memories. That same year, Ricky Schroder took part in a celebrity charity softball game that brought together sitcom stars from across television. He played second base, eager to show off his athletic side, but ended up in a moment that got the entire crowd laughing. While chasing down a ground ball, he slid into the bag and straight into another actor. The collision was so perfectly timed that the local news replayed it during coverage of the event, complete with slow motion and comedic commentary. Ricky popped up immediately, grinning and helping the other actor to their feet. The two of them hammed it up afterward, pretending to limp dramatically whenever cameras pointed their way. Fans in the stands shouted playful encouragement every time Ricky stepped back onto the field. Even after the game, he received letters from people who had been there, thanking him for making the day even more fun. The collision was harmless, but the exaggerated tumble and surprised expression of the other player had everyone in stitches. The teasing from fellow castmates lasted for weeks, with jokes about Ricky taking out the competition in friendly games. Despite the ribbing, Ricky enjoyed every moment, knowing the event was for a good cause. He signed autographs for fans between innings and posed for photos with other actors, making the day about more than just the game. In the end, the slide became one of the most replayed highlights of the match, and Ricky took the joke in stride, adding it to his growing list of lighthearted career moments. If you had fun uncovering these offbeat Ricky Schroder moments from 1984, drop the strangest one you never saw coming in the comments. Tap that like button like you are sliding into second base, and subscribe so you never miss another trip behind the scenes of TV history.